I've got this apple tree. It's a gala. Sometimes I feel like the galah here. Anyway, this is a super dwarf apple tree. I'll explain a bit about that in a second. It's been in this pot for a couple of years now, and I've done absolutely nothing with it. It's got to go in the ground. But in the meantime, what I've got to do is top it up because it's run out of soil. It's washed out. Have a look at this. Come, look at this mess. Well, it's not a mess, but it's just really, really interesting to see how they've developed these little aerial roots. This is the rootstock. Now, all fruit trees nowadays are grafted on a rootstock, depending on the type of tree and the height that it's going to grow. You've got dwarfing rootstocks. This is a dwarf or super dwarf gala apple tree. Now you have M27, that's what they've given them a name like that. You've got an M9, M26, and there's another one, I just can't remember that one. But the numbers don't really represent how much of a dwarfing rootstock it is. For example, M27 is the super dwarf, super dwarf, so it's extremely dwarf. It'll grow to about 1.5 metres or 2 metres, let's say. The M9 will grow to 2.4 metres. And I'm thinking this one here is M26. So the M27, 9 and M26 here, this one will grow, well, if I put it on the ground, just to give you an idea, I reckon this will get up to 3 metres as a full tree, not just one shoot. A lot of plants, if they're only left with one shoot, will grow past, you know, their standard height of what they would normally reach. So I reckon this is on an M26. It doesn't say it on the label. Now, the rootstocks, why do they graft them on there? Well, they're selected, and sometimes they have been created by cross-pollinating them and, you know, crossing over a couple of varieties. They're selected because of their resilience in the soil and disease resistance as well. Obviously, maybe some of the pests, but more so that they're able to tolerate the type of soils that we have across Australia. Now, there are different rootstocks again, and for different zones and different types of conditions that you want to grow them in. Now, this one here has a rootstock that has been exposed because all the soils come out. That's how it's been on its own. Whenever we remember to water it, we watered it. Otherwise, it's had to survive on its own accord. And what we've got here is the rootstock suckering up. This now, the way it's been growing, is like what they would do in a large farm field of growing rootstocks in a, I think they call it a stool bed, which is basically layering the main shoot down there and having all these uprights growing and developing all the new rootstocks, which they then, after a year, would separate and then graft on the variety of signwood that they have, maybe an apple, pear, whatever variety they want to graft on. So I've got my own little rootstocks developing here. Now, they haven't come off the side of the plant, they've come off a root inside, and it'd be a decent root size as well. Now, I'd like to pull this apart. We are running out of daylight here. I left this very late in the day to film, but let's see if I can get to it deep enough, because you want to separate it with as much of its own root system as possible. Now, the soil is nice and fluffy. This is our old, I think it is, I'm not sure if it's our planting mix, but anyway, it is a nice fluffy mix, and I can feel right down in there where it is. I dare say I'm just going to yank it out, but I don't want to tear it out. So just bear with me as we work through this. Yeah. I'm just going to shake the soil off. We're going to repot it anyway. And I'll get the secateurs in here. Whoa, it's right down in here. Now, this time of the year it is dormant, even though we may have, at least part of the root system, new growth already sort of pushing out. You'll find in late winter, before spring comes along, all the magic happens in the soil, folks, where you can't see it, where it starts to grow. And then once the new roots and feeder roots have developed, a new season of growth comes along. Here we are. We've got worms in here as well. So it's a really good soil mix. A little bit dry because I haven't watered it. But the other part about it, pot-bound plants, see how the roots are wrapping around here? They're starting to go in a circle motion here, and eventually, if they stay in here too long, it'll choke itself, in simple words. All right, let's get to this. This is grown right from the, oh, geez. All right, I'm being gentle because I do want to keep as much of it as possible, but this tree will, you know, I can knock off all these roots, to be honest with you, because there's not much above ground to worry about. But I'm just going to do this slowly, so for For those who've never done it before, don't go in there hammer and tong and destroy the plant. Now here's a nice big chunky root here. You can't see it, I can feel it. Just coming in through here. Just separating the arteries here, folks. The veins and the arteries. There, these nice chunky roots, you can see how they've been cut off. So the first time it was dug up out of the ground, that's where they cut the roots off, the main roots, and none of these were on there. And that's because the tree was dormant. This tree's not dormant yet, so it's still active. It's in a warm spot where it is. Still cops a bit of wind, but we've got all these roots that are tangled up. If I was to take this out of the pot like this and just stick it in the ground wrapped up like that, what would you think would happen to these roots? They'd continue growing in this form and struggle to push out. So you'll have this wrapping up, and eventually these fine ones, if they don't die off, they'll end up becoming really thick and entangled. So that is an unhealthy root system if it's to stay or go in the ground without being teased out. And if it's going to stay in the pot, you still need to tease it out. It's only because this tree has been in this pot for far too long a period, and that's why it's happened. So you can get a bucket of water if you want to soak it in, and everything would fall off, meaning the soil that is. You can loosen it up quite easily that way as well. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to do it this way. Take my time with it. And I found the point of origin. I'd love to show you that if I can. So you can't tell, I'm just going to run my finger along it. You can see all the fine side shoots that have come out. That's the stem there itself. And right here, you can see where it's wobbling. That's the point of connection there. You can't see the root. There's a lot of soil on it. That's where it's connected to. So I'm just going to snip it off right down there. Otherwise I'm going to go back into the main trunk itself. There we are. So we've got our first rootstock, homegrown rootstock. Number one, folks, there we are. We've got enough roots in there. We're going to pot that up in here. It's still pretty long. You can trim them off if you like. I'm not going to worry about it. It's not going to stay in here too long. Well, at least I don't think it will. So number one, let's get the other two off and pot them up. Number two. Number three. Let's get back to this one first before we pot those up. We've knocked out all the soil on this, which is not a good thing long term. And all these long roots, no good to us at the moment, folks, because if I'm going to put it back in the pot, they're all just going to sit on top of each other. So we're going to trim all this up. And if you're not confident in doing this when you buy a plant, ask your local nursery person to give you a hand. So we're just going to go across here, cut all these off. You can see I'm sort of cutting back to the main sort of growth where most of the roots are. So getting rid of the long straggly bits. I almost tore that one. There we are. That's a lot better. That hasn't hurt the plant one iota. Before I plant it, I don't want this to go out of the sky. This is central leader here. I can leave that there and try to grow laterals out of it. And then from here, as they hang out, all these side shoots will become my fruit-bearing little spurs. But I don't want this to grow any taller. I actually want to cut this off. Yeah, I'm doing it. Just gone. We may keep this for some grafts. And these side shoots, well, just going to trim them back down a bit just to compensate for the roots that I cut off as well. There we are. And every tree you buy, if they haven't pruned it for you, make sure you do prune it, because most of them will come really tall and lanky, just like the roots were in this pot. Just checking it fits beautifully. Well, that's where it came from, isn't it? There you go. Now remember, folks, every time you cut something from the top, well, I should say from the bottom in this case, if you're cutting the roots off, make sure you cut from the top as well, unless the top's already been pruned. I'm just cutting that off with my hand. Now, I'm not going to use this mix. It's a bit dark to show you what we've been working on, but I'm going to mention it anyway. We've been working on a potting mix. Now we've got a planting mix. This is our potting mix, still in a clear bag. The new bags should be out. I keep saying a week or two. I'm just waiting on the printing company. That's all it is now. This is our potting mix, which is basically our planting mix with some extra goodies in there for the drainage that we want. and it works a treat for your pots as well. So all natural, all organic, no chemicals in here, folks. We use nothing of that sort. So we source our raw materials for the highest quality. That is so important to us. We don't compromise on that. So a little bit at the bottom is what we need to do. And then we sit this on top. And when you sit it on top, you know, this actually does need a bigger pot. Okay? I'm putting it back into the same pot. I have cut some of the roots off and we've thinned out the rootstock. But ideally, if you were to pot this tree up for longevity in a pot, it needs to be a huge pot. We're talking at least 60, 70 centimetres in diameter. This is, if you're lucky, 35. So it's about half the size that I need it to be. I'm just going to pour this in. But remember, there's a heap of holes in here. See, it's already sunken down. You can poke your finger or get a bamboo stick if I've got one lying around here, or just use the old branch. What I'm doing here is just poking into the soil, into the cavity underneath the root system, because I know the soil will clag up a little bit and not go into those gaps, and you don't want any air pockets. So using a bamboo stick or something similar, just poke around just to create some little tunnels. Tap, 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 tap. You can see it's gone to the one side. That's how it was originally. I can't do much about that. But ideally, if you had a bigger pot, you could center it. Okay. Yeah, still got our rice hulls I see in this planting mix, or sorry, it's a potting mix. Okay, that's done. Quickly do the other ones and give them a quick water. It's getting dark. All right, so we've potted them up. All we need to do now, folks, is give them a good watering. Now, do not water them without a liquid seaweed into it. Now, I'm going to pick my favourite one. I've got so many to choose from here. Have a look at this little smorgasbord. We have got all sorts going on in here. Let me see. Well, I'm not going to touch... Where is it? I'm not touching that one. I'm not touching that one, or that one, or that one, or that one. That one there. That's the one. And a little bit of EK Butch as well. Into it is what we need. So seaweed, it's a capful per 9 litres of water. That's at half strength, like that. That's all you need. And the same with the Eco. Capful. Beautiful. Quick stir. Got our stirring. Oh geez, that smells good. And a good soaking. So if you've got some pot plants, folks, that are looking worse for wear, or you just bought some fruit trees or something that needs to be repotted or potted up straight away, get onto it straight away. Do not leave it, and always use a good liquid fertiliser. You know I'm going to recommend our ones, folks. That's all you need. Check out our website, vasilisgarden.com, for all the great products that we have online. Redeem your points. There's only a couple of weeks, if that, left before we move over, and take advantage of our autumn specials. Use the coupon code word AUTUMN to get a bonus 15% off the already discounted price. It's going to run out soon. From me, Vasili, Maresi. How are we going, everybody? That doesn't look good. That's Leia giving Vader, giving him a lesson on who's the boss here. She's literally just sitting on him. All right, well, that's what we got here, folks.